Hello, friends. How are you doing? I'm Pastor Benjamin Wilson. I want to welcome you to another Leadership Impact Night. I'm excited about what we're talking about tonight. We are going to dive into some good stuff. Before I do that, I do want to say that I want to encourage you to engage. I want to encourage you to leave comments. We're going to be monitoring the comments to make sure that if there's anything that's there, we'll be able to respond to them through the comments, or at some point we'll send some messages out to be able to contact and engage with you. Also, I want you to share this video. Share the Leadership Impact Nights with your friends, with those who are in leadership positions, no matter what their leadership position is. Let them know on Thursday evenings, Pastor Ben is leading the Leadership Impact Night, and they do not want to miss it. I am ready, so ready to dive into the content tonight, and I want to talk about fear. Fear has taken out more leaders than failure ever has. It doesn't need to destroy you. It just needs to keep you silent. I want you to think about that just for a second. How many times have you held back? Not because you didn't have the ability, but because fear whispered a lie into your mind. It whispered a lie in your ear. What if you mess up? What if you don't have what it takes? What if people reject me? What if I fail in front of everyone? You weren't stopped in those moments by a lack of talent. You weren't even stopped by a lack of opportunity. The truth of the matter is you were stopped by fear. Let me ask you something else. What would your leadership look like if fear was no longer in the way? What would happen if you stopped hesitating? What would happen if you stopped waiting for permission to lead? If you stopped shrinking back? Some of you already know the answer to that question because you know that there's more inside of you. You know there's another level of leadership that has been waiting on you, that has been calling on you. But fear keeps its grip on your mind, on your decisions, and on your confidence. But that stops tonight. Because tonight we're going to break the cycle of fear. We're going to break the cycle of silence, doubt, and step into the confidence that was always meant to be yours. Again, this is Leadership and Impact Night. I'm Pastor Benjamin Wilson, and this week we're talking about unleashing the roar, overcoming fear and leading with confidence. Let me tell you a story about someone that I worked with. His name was David. David was one of the most talented, awesome, and capable leaders I had ever met. He had the skills, he had the vision, he had the ability, he had the charisma. But every time an opportunity came up for him to step up, speak out, or take the lead, he shut down. He was the guy in meetings who had brilliant ideas but never spoke up. He was the one who saw solutions before anybody else did, but he waited for someone else to say them first. He wanted to take his career and calling to the next level, but every time the moment came to act, he hesitated. And you know what he told me? He said, Pastor Ben, I know I'm supposed to lead. I know I have something to offer, but every time I get ready to take that step, the thought comes to my head, what if I'm not enough? What if I fail? What if people don't respect me? What if I fall flat on my face? David wasn't failing because he wasn't good enough. He wasn't failing because he lacked ability. He was failing because he never stepped up to lead. And I want to tell you something that is absolutely true. Fear doesn't need to destroy you. I said it already. It doesn't need to destroy you to be effective. It just needs to keep you silent. Some of you right now watching this, if we're being real, you are David. You know there's more inside of you, but fear keeps whispering reasons why you shouldn't go after it. You know you're supposed to speak up, but fear keeps telling you to stay quiet. You know you're meant to lead at a higher level, a deeper level, another level, but fear keeps telling you that you're not ready. How many times, how many opportunities have you lost because fear convinced you to hesitate? How many moments of growth, moments of impact and influence have you passed by because you let doubt speak louder than your calling? Tonight, we are going to expose fear for what it really is. We're going to break its hold on your leadership because if you don't learn how to confront fear head on, you will spend your whole life waiting for the right moment, never realizing the right moment was waiting on you. So let's talk about it. What's holding you back? You know what? For David, he thought it was a personal issue. He thought he was alone in his struggle, but let me tell you something. He was not alone. You see, fear doesn't just attack individuals. Fear targets leaders. It goes after anyone who has the potential to influence, the potential to impact or shift something. And if fear can keep you silent and passive or even hesitant, fear has already won. But here's the thing. Fear isn't just one big vague emotion. Fear has patterns. Fear has strategies. And if you can learn to identify them, you can learn to defeat fear. Let's break this down. There are three major forms of fear that attack leaders. Three major forms. The first one, fear of failure. The fear of failure shows its face in some semblance of the question, what if I mess up? Fear of failure is dangerous. Why? Because fear of failure paralyzes leaders before they ever take a step. It makes them overthink. It makes you overthink. It makes you second guess and makes you hesitate when you should be moving forward. And what's crazy is that the fear of failure is often worse than actual failure. Because if we let it failure will teach us. Failure will refine us. Failure makes you stronger. But fear convinces you to never even try. You don't launch the business. You don't write the book. You don't start the ministry, not because you lack the skill, but because you fear what happens if it doesn't work. How many times have you had a vision, a plan, an idea that you knew was right, but you never moved on it? Not because you couldn't, not because you didn't have the ability, but because the thought of failing in front of people scared you more than the thought of not succeeding. I want to share something with you that might sting for some of you. Some of us watching right now would rather stay comfortable in potential than risk failure for actual growth. Some would rather be known for what they could do than be remembered for what they actually did. But here's the truth. The leaders who make history are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who refuse to stay down. Think about it. Let's think about Moses. He messed up big time and ran away into the wilderness. He thought his failure disqualified him, but God wasn't done with him. Think about Peter. He denied Jesus at the moment it mattered most. He failed publicly, painfully, and dramatically, but God did not leave him there. Jesus restored him and launched his movement through him. You think failure disqualifies you? It doesn't. It develops you. The difference between leaders who make an impact and those who don't isn't the absence of failure. It's the willingness to get back up. So here's the question I want to ask you. Is the fear of failure keeping you from what God has called you to do? Because here's the reality. If you never try, you are already failing. So the first of the three major forms of fear is fear of failure, and it shows up in some form of the question, what if I mess up? The second is the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection shows up in some form of the question, what if people don't accept me? This fear, this is the one that keeps leaders small. This is the fear that stops leaders from speaking up, from standing firm, from leading boldly. Because nobody likes being rejected. Let's be real. Nobody wakes up and say, I hope people don't accept me today. We are wired for connection. We want to be respected. We want to be liked, and we want to be understood. But listen to me. If you live your life for approval, you will die from rejection. There are a lot of people leading from a need to be accepted, not from their actual calling. They hold back from telling the truth because they don't want to offend people. They keep their ideas to themselves because they're scared of criticism. They hesitate to make decisions because they don't want to lose favor with others. If you're trying to please everyone, you are leading no one. If you're going to lead, you have to get comfortable with not being liked by everyone. Jesus dealt with this thing himself. In Mark 6, he goes back to his hometown. And you think people would celebrate him after doing miracles? You think they would celebrate him. But what did they do? They rejected him. They said, isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't this Mary's son? Jesus, the Son of God, the Messiah, the one who they had been waiting for, was rejected by his own people. And yet he didn't water down his message to make them like him. He didn't shrink back because they didn't believe in him. He kept moving. Some of you right now are so afraid of people's opinions that you're shrinking your calling to fit into their approval. Some of you are afraid of losing favor with people that you're playing small just to be accepted. But let me tell you this, if the cost of acceptance is shrinking your calling, is way too expensive. Stop waiting for people to accept and approve what God already himself has stamped with approval. So here's my challenge to you, my question to you. Are you leading for applause or are you leading for impact? Are you leading from calling or are you craving approval? You've got to get clear on this, because if you try to keep everyone happy, you can't be the leader God called and created you to be. That's number two. Let's get to the third major form of fear that attacks leader. The first one, again, is fear of failure, and it shows up with the question, what if I mess up? The second is the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection shows up in some form of the question, what if people do not accept me? And the third fear is this, the fear of the unknown. And this question, this fear, is one that shows its face in the form of the question, what if I'm not ready? This is the fear that keeps people stuck. This is the fear that keeps leaders stuck in preparation mode forever. The fear of the unknown, the fear of not being ready, the fear of what happens next. You don't move because you think you need more time. You don't step up because you think you need more preparation. You don't take action because you're waiting to feel ready. How many times have you told yourself, I just need a little more time before I step out? I just need more experience before I launch. I just need one more word of confirmation before I move. Listen to me. At some point, waiting turns into wasting. You think Abraham felt ready when God told him to leave everything that he knew and go into a place he had no idea where he was going? God says, go to the land I will show you. Not here's the full itinerary. Not let me give you all the details first. He just told him to go. And Abraham went. No roadmap, no 5-step plan, no guarantees, no certainty, just obedience. Some of us have been guilty of, or are still guilty of waiting on for God to show us the whole staircase when he's only asking us to take the first step. You think Moses felt ready when God told him to confront Pharaoh? You think Esther felt ready when she had to go before the king, knowing the possibility could be her death? None of them felt ready, but they moved anyway. Why? Because leaders don't wait until they feel ready. Leaders move when they are called to move. Some of you are waiting for a guarantee before you move. You want clarity before obedience. You want certainty before action. You want the full plan before you take the first step. But that is not how leadership works. How much longer are you going to let fear of the unknown keep you stuck? Because if you wait until you feel ready, you may be waiting for a very long time. And the people you are called to lead may not have that kind of time to wait. So let me ask you this. Which one of these fears has been running your life? Is it the fear of failure where you're so scared to mess up that you won't even try? Is it the fear of rejection where you're so focused on being accepted that you won't take a stand? Or is it the fear of the unknown where you're waiting to feel ready before you step up? Fear is only as powerful as you give space to it. The leaders who rise, the ones who break through, they're not the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who refuse to let fear control their next move. And this is where I want to talk about Gideon. Because if there was ever someone who had every reason to let fear stop them, friends, it was Gideon. Look, we just talked about the 3 fears that attacks leaders, and Gideon battled every single one of them. All of them. Gideon was one of the most relatable leaders in the Bible because he didn't start off as a warrior, as a king, or even someone with confidence. He started out hiding. But by the time God finished with him, he was leading an army and delivering an entire nation. Picture this. Israel is in chaos. The Midianites have taken over, and every time the people plant crops or try to rebuild, the enemy swoops in and destroys everything. The people are terrified. They feel powerless, defeated, and hopeless. And that's where we meet Gideon. Where is he? Is he standing boldly? Is he preparing to fight? Is he strategizing with the leaders a way to fight back and take back the land? No. Gideon is hiding in a wine press. Now, let me put this into perspective. Wine presses weren't built for threshing wheat. They were built low to keep grapes contained while they were being crushed. It was a place of confinement, not expansion. And Gideon, he's threshing wheat in a space that was never meant for it. Why? Because he was afraid. The Midianites are taking everything in sight, and instead of fighting back, he's just trying to survive. Some of you right now, you're threshing wheat in a wine press. You're hiding your gifts instead of using them. You're playing small because you're afraid of what happens if you step up. Man, you're just trying to survive when you were meant to lead. And right there in Gideon's hiding place, in his fear, in his insecurity, God shows up. An angel of the Lord appears to him and says something that makes no sense based on where Gideon is at the moment. Again, he's hiding. And the angel says, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Mighty warrior? Gideon isn't acting like a warrior. He's hiding. He's afraid. He's playing small, and you call him warrior? But check this out. God calls him based on his identity, not his insecurity. Some of you, you're waiting for your circumstances to confirm your calling when God is trying to speak it into you before you even step into it. Gideon didn't feel like he was a warrior, but God wasn't speaking to where he was. He was speaking to who he was becoming. But how did Gideon respond? Did Gideon jump up and say, "Yes, Lord, I'm ready. You called me warrior. I'm ready." Nope, that didn't happen. He started making excuses. Gideon looks at the angel and he says, "Pardon me, pardon me, my Lord, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? Where are all his wonders? Why has he abandoned us?" In other words, if I am called, why does everything look like this? How many times have you thought the same thing? If I'm meant to lead, why do I feel so unqualified? If I have a calling, why does my life look like nothing? Why does it look nothing like my call? If God is with me, why do I feel stuck? Gideon was so focused on what wasn't happening that he couldn't see what God was setting up. But here's what I love. God doesn't argue with Gideon's excuses. He doesn't say, "You're right, you're weak." He doesn't say, "Yeah, maybe you should wait." No, he just speaks the command again. Go in the strength you have. Go in the strength you have and save Israel. Am I not sending you? Go in the strength you have. Not go when you feel ready. Not go when you have everything figured out. Not go when the fear disappears. Go in the strength you have. And right there, Gideon is face to face with the moment that every leader has to confront. The moment when you realize that fear doesn't leave before you step up. You step up while fear is present. This was Gideon's leadership awakening. He had a choice. Keep hiding or step into who God was calling him to be. And you know what happens next? Gideon moves. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't instant. He still wrestled with doubt. He still had to build his confidence. But once he obeyed, his leadership unlocked. He went from hiding in fear to leading an army. He went from doubting his ability to defeat the enemy. He went from timid and uncertain to bold and victorious, because the moment he stepped forward, his roar was released. Some of you are one step away from unlocking the leader inside of you, but you're waiting for fear to leave before you move. And here's what I need you to understand tonight. Fear doesn't leave first. Faith moves first. You don't wait to feel courageous. You don't wait until you have all the answers. You move in the strength you have. And now the question is, how do you activate that same boldness? How do you shift from fear into confidence? We've broken down fear and seen how Gideon stepped into leadership. It's time to activate boldness in your life. Because here's the truth. Fear doesn't just go away. You have to confront it. You have to challenge it. You have to take authority over it. The first thing that needs to happen is you have to change the narrative. Change the narrative. Boldness doesn't start with action. It starts with how you think. Fear is fueled by the story you tell yourself. If you keep telling yourself, I'm not ready, you will act like you're not ready. If you keep telling yourself, I don't have what it takes, you will keep shrinking back. If you keep telling yourself, people won't respect me, you will hesitate every single time. Some of you have been feeding fear by speaking its language, plain and simple. But here's what I need you to understand tonight. Your words create your world. Proverbs 18:21 says the tongue has the power of life and death. So if you want to activate boldness, you have to stop agreeing with fear. Stop saying I'm not enough and start saying I am called and equipped for this. Stop saying I'm not ready and start saying God has already given me what I need to take the next step. Stop saying I don't belong here and start saying and realizing I was created for this very moment. So the first thing you have to do is to change the narrative. The second thing is to take one bold step, not one. I'm not two, not three, not four, just one. Some of you are still waiting to feel comfortable before you move. But confidence doesn't come from waiting. It comes from movement. You don't become bold by sitting back and thinking about it. You become bold by taking action. Let's look at David, not my friend David in the Bible. When he faced Goliath, he didn't stand there overthinking. He didn't wait until he felt ready. First Samuel says, as the Philistine moved closer, David ran toward him into the battle. He ran toward it. Some of you have been standing on the sidelines, waiting for the fear to disappear before you step up. But the move of God isn't waiting for your comfort. It's waiting on your obedience. So let me ask you, what's the bold step? What's the one bold step you've been afraid to take? Because that step, that's your leadership awakening moment. For some of you, it's starting the business. For someone, it's applying for that job. For someone, it's having the conversation that you've been avoiding for so long. Whatever the step is, take the step. Number 3, you have to find your roar. This one right here is key. Find your roar, because fear's ultimate goal isn't just to keep you silent. It's to keep you from owning your own voice. Your voice carries power. It carries influence. It carries authority. And when you hold back, when you shrink down, when you stay quiet, you are robbing the world of the leader God created you to be. Some of you have been whispering when you were created to roar. You've been tiptoeing through your calling when you were meant to stand firm. But listen to me. God didn't create you to play small. You were not created to play small. Okay, get that. For God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Fear was never part of your makeup. It was never part of your design. You were created with power. You were created with boldness. You were created with a roar. And it's time to use it. Because when you find your roar, when you stop holding back, everything shifts. You start speaking up with authority. You start moving with confidence. You start leading without hesitation. And suddenly fear doesn't run your life anymore. So here's my challenge to you. What's the one thing fear has been keeping you from doing? Name it, write it down, and this week, do it. Because boldness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And once you make the decision to move forward, fear loses its grip. Drop a comment if you're watching this. If you're able to, drop a comment right now and tell me what's the bold move you're making this week, if you feel comfortable doing that. Because when you put it into words, you make it real. And leaders, they don't just think, they don't just plan, they take action. This is the moment where leadership moves from something you hear to something you do. If you don't take action on what you've learned and what we've talked about, what we have discussed tonight, nothing will change. Fear will still be sitting in the driver's seat. Doubt will still be running your decisions, and you will still be playing small when you were created to lead boldly. But if you make the shift right now, if you decide tonight that tonight is the night you stop letting fear control your leadership, then you'll see everything change. So what's your next move? Not your someday move, not your 5-year plan, your next move. What's the conversation you need to have? What's the opportunity you need to stop avoiding? What's the bold step you've been afraid to take? Because leaders don't wait, they move. I want you to drop a comment right now and tell me what that move is this week. I want you to do that. I want to make sure that you make it real for yourself. I don't just want to inspire you. I want you to activate your leadership. And for those of you who are ready to go even deeper, next week is going to change the way you think about leadership forever. Because fear is just one part of the battle. The other part, your mindset. And next week, that's what we're diving into. We're diving into the mindset shift. Thinking like a leader before you feel like one. Because too many people are waiting to feel like a leader before they start acting like a leader. But leadership, it starts in your mind first. So if you're ready to go to the next level in how you think and how you lead and how you operate, do not miss next week's Leadership Impact Night. Listen, you were created to lead boldly. You were created to influence. You were created with a roar, but it's up to you to use it. So here's what I want you to do. You'll get used to this. Do this every week. Make sure that you are subscribed. Turn on the notifications so you never miss an episode. Share this with someone who needs it. Don't just keep this thing to yourself. Send it to a leader. Send it to a friend, a mentor, a brother, a sister, whomever. Tag them in the comments and invite them to step up. Be here next week, same time, same place, because your leadership is about to shift in a way you've never expected. I'll see you, friends, next week for Leadership Impact Night. Until then, lead boldly, move with confidence, and unleash the roar inside of you.